Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9. We are at chapter 10. Does anyone remember what we read yesterday?
Hare Krishna. we
Krishna.
we read that we were reading about Sri Ram, and we read that how the monkeys, including Nal, Hanumanji, and everybody was throwing mountains and peaks in the ocean, and it was still floating, and it was only by the will and the potency of Lord Sri Ram that it was floating. And then Prabhupada says, so why cannot he make it float? Why? Because when he can float big planets, and this is always possible because as he's omnipotent and the material laws don't apply to him, like the gravity, when he wills, then everything is possible and he can make them float. He is the creator of the law of gravity, and that's his will. So Lord Ram can do that, and they attacked the entire city of Lanka. Hanumanji and Neel and Sugriv and Ravan was sending one by one all his soldiers like Kumbhakaran, Indrajit, and a lot of other his army men, and to fight the monkeys. And they were fighting, and then it is also mentioned that they all were not very well trained. They were just monkeys, but his men were very, very well trained. But why they lost? Because they got cursed by Mother Sita. And it was also mentioned that because they were at the side of Lord Ram, the monkeys, they were winning because they were uh, in the side of Lord Ram. And then we also read about like the two kinds of um, um, bal, like your power, like, like the spiritual and the material. So like spiritual is always the greater one, though you have so much of like, so when you fight, like when we see Arjuna, like when we fight, then we have our uh, material power in the sense of our shastra, but it should always be in connection to Lord. So like we should always surrender it to Lord and then fight. So yeah, we read about that. And like I think we also read that the Ravan, a lot of his soldiers were killed, and then he went towards Lord Ram, who was on the chariot of Lord. He was on the chariot, and it was driven by Indra, charioteer driver. His name was Matali. So, and then he started showering him with the arrows, and I'm not sure if we did the 22nd. I'm not sure. So yeah, up till here.
Yeah, we did, right?
We did sex.
22nd.
Okay. Okay, you did
Yeah.
22nd then. Yeah. Okay, then maybe
That
I did not
religion,
read the
dharmam tu
22nd.
sakshat bhagavad pranitam. What the Lord says,
Okay.
that is religion. What
Mm.
he does is religion. He comes to
Mm-hmm.
annihilate the miscreants, protect the devotees, and to re-establish the religious principles.
Okay.
Okay. So then, thank you so much. Going on to 23. Evam shipandanushisanditam utsasarja
एवं क्षिपन्धानुषि सन्धितम् उत्ससर्ज
Vanam savajram iva tadridayam bibheda.
वाणं सवज्रम् इव तत्हृदयं बिभेद
Susragvamanda shamukhe nyapatad vimanad.
सोऽसु असक्रवामन् दशमुखे न्यनपतु बिभेदा
Dadeti jalpati jane sukriti variktaha.
सोऽसग्रवामन् वनासव्रजम् इव तद्हृदयं ददेति जल्पति जनसुकृतीव रिक्तः.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. After thus rebuking Ravan, Lord Ramachandra fixed an arrow to his bow, aimed at Ravan, and released the arrow, which pierced Ravan's heart like a thunderbolt. Upon seeing this, Ravan's followers raised a tumultuous sound, crying, "Alas, alas, what has happened? What has happened?" As Ravan, vomiting blood from his 10 mouths, fell from his airplane, just as a pious man falls to earth from the heavenly planets when the results of his pious activities are exhausted. In Bhagavad Gita 9:21, it is said, Shine punyam artya lokam vishanti. When the results of their pious activities are exhausted, those who have enjoyed in the heavenly planets fall again to earth. So this is why we are encouraged not to just do material piety, but to engage in spiritual activities, get spiritual piety. Because once the karma is finished, then we have to fall down again to earth. The fruitive activities of this material world are such that whether one acts piously or impiously, one must remain within the material world according to different conditions. For neither pious nor impious actions can relieve one from Maya's clutches of repeated birth and death. So it's like a nice example that Sukadev Goswami is saying, like Ravan fell down, he was on the airplane and he's falling down. Just as one falls down, even if one is on heavenly planets, the karma, punya karma finish, one has to fall back to earth. Somehow or the other, Ravan was raised to an exalted position as the king of a great kingdom with all material opulences. But because of his sinful act of kidnapping Mother Sita, all the results of his pious activities were destroyed. If one offends an exalted personality, especially the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one certainly becomes most abominable. Bereft of the results of pious activities, one must fall down like Ravan and other demons. So one can get an opulent position because one has gotten some karma to to be in that position, right? But then once one does bad things, then that good karma is finished, is gone, and the bad karma is there, and then we have to get the results of the bad karma. So we can see it's like a Ferris wheel. Sometimes good karma, then you go high up, then you bad karma again go down, going up and down, but within the material world. It is therefore advised that one transcend both pious and impious activities and remain in the pure state of freedom from all designations. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam. When one is fixed in devotional service, he is above the material platform. On the material platform, there are higher and lower positions. But when one is above the material platform, he is always fixed in a spiritual position. Sagunan samityayitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Ravan or those like him may be very powerful and opulent in this material world, but theirs is not a secure position because, after all, they are bound by the results of their karma. Karmana deva netrena. We should not forget that we are completely dependent on the laws of nature. And we are completely dependent on the laws of nature, but we always forget that. We think, oh, I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want, but we are completely dependent on the laws of nature. Okay. Prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankara vimuratma kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of activities, that are actually carried out by nature. Bhagavad Gita 3:27. One should not be proud of one's exalted position and act like Ravan, thinking oneself independent of material nature's laws. So Ravan got his exalted position because he did some good deeds. He had some punya. That's why he could be so opulent. But all that is gone by kidnapping Mother Sita. So we think that we are independent. We think we are independent, that we can control material nature as we want. But actually, it is the material nature that's controlling us. We are under the modes. And that's why Krishna is saying, you surrender to me to rise above the modes. Yatamam prapadyante tam satyeva bhajamyam. Krishna is saying, as you surrender to me, I shall reward you. So the modes are very, very difficult to overcome. But when we surrender to Krishna, we can easily overcome them. Any comments, questions? Okay, going on. Tato nishkramya lankaya
ततो निष्क्रम्य लङ्काया
yato dhanya sahasrashaha
यातु धान्यः सहस्रशः
mandodarya samam tatra
मन्दोदर्या समं तत्र
arudantya upadravan.
प्ररुदन्त्यः उपाद्रवन्.
Thereafter, all the women whose husbands had fallen in the battle, headed by Mandodari, the wife of Ravan, came out of Lanka, continuously crying. They approached the dead bodies of Ravan and the other Rakshasas. So we can see that the battle was it was not being fought in the city as happens nowadays. It's happening in a battlefield. It's away from where people live. Swan Swan Bandun Parishvajya
स्वान् स्वान् बन्धून् परिष्वज्य
Lakshmani Shubir Arditan
लक्ष्मण ईशुभिर्अर्धिजान् तान्
Rurudu Suswaram Dina
रुरुदो सुस्वरं दीना
Nyantya Atmanam Atmana,
घनन्त्य आत्मानम् आत्मना.
striking their breasts in affliction because their husbands had been killed by the arrows of Lakshman. The women embraced their respective husbands and cried piteously in voices appealing to everyone. Ha hatasma vayam natha
हा हतः स्वयं नाथ
Ravana Ravana
लोक रावण रावण
Tam Yayach Charanam Lanka
कं यायात् शरणं लङ्का
Vadvihina Parardita.
त्वत्त्वहीना परार्धिता.
O my Lord, O Master, you epitomize trouble for others, and therefore you are called Ravan. But now that you have been defeated, we are also defeated. For without you, the state of Lanka has been conquered by the enemy. To whom will it go for shelter? Ravan's wife Mandodari and the other wives knew very well how cruel a person Ravan was. The very word Ravan means one who causes crying for others. Ravan continuously caused trouble for others, but when his sinful activities culminated in giving trouble to Sita Devi, he was killed by Lord Ramachandra. Ravan means who causes crying for others. That's what the name means. Huh? He makes somebody cry. So he was making everyone cry. And like that, his sinful activities was going, accumulating, becoming more and more until kidnap Mother Sita, then everything's gone. He had to be killed then. Navai Veda Mahabhaga.
Nave Vedam
Veda Mahabhaga.
Bhavan Kama Vasham Gataha.
Bhavan
Bhavakama Vasham Kataha.
Tejo Nubhavam Sitaya.
Tejonubhavam
Sitaya.
Sitaya
Yena Nito Dasham Imam.
Yena Nito
Nito Dasham.
Dashamimam.
O greatly fortunate one, you came under the influence of lusty desires, and therefore you could not understand the influence of Mother Sita. Now, because of her curse, you have been reduced to this state, having been killed by Lord Ramachandra. Not only was Mother Sita powerful, but any woman who follows in the footsteps of Mother Sita can also become similarly powerful. There are many instances of this in the history of Vedic literature. Whenever we find a description of ideal chaste women, Mother Sita is among them. Mandodari, the wife of Ravan, was also very chaste. Similarly, Draupadi was one of 5 exalted chaste women. As a man must follow great personalities like Brahma and Narad, a woman must follow the path of such ideal women as Sita, Mandodari, and Draupadi. By staying chaste and faithful to her husband, a woman enriches herself with supernatural power. It is a moral principle that one should not be influenced by lusty desires for another's wife. So here Prabhupada is mentioning that just like the man, he is advised to follow in the footsteps of great personalities here mentioned like Brahma and Narad, follow great personalities like so the devotees, the Mahajans. The woman must follow the path of such ideal women as Sita, Mandodari, and Draupadi, because what they are standing for is their chastity, faithfulness. And then in that way, woman also becomes powerful. She becomes a very, very powerful. So, Matravat Parad Dhareshu, an intelligent person must look upon another's wife as being like his mother. This is a moral injunction from Chanakya Shlok 10. Matravat Paradareshu, Paradravyeshu Lostravat. Atmavat Sarva Bhuteshu, Ya Pashyati Sapandita. One who considers another's wife as his mother, another's possessions as a lump of dirt, and treats all other living beings as he would himself, is considered to be learned. So, this is Chanakya Pandit. What is he saying? How to look at another's wife?
He considers another's wife as his mother.
Mother, yeah. Another's wife as his mother, and others' possessions as
It's a lump of dirt.
a lump of dirt,
Treats
others' possessions, and treats all other living beings how?
as he would himself.
Yeah, as we would treat ourselves. So, and such a person is, what is he considered?
He's learned.
Yeah, so such a person is considered to be learned. So the Chanakya Pandit is saying, oh, this person is a learned person, one who acts like this. One may think, okay, if I memorize this much or that much, I will be considered learned. But here we can see Chanakya Pandit is saying when we behave in such a way, then we are considered learned. Thus, Ravan was condemned not only by Lord Ramachandra, but even by his own wife Mandodari. Because she was a chaste woman, she knew the power of another chaste woman, especially such a wife as Mata Sita Devi. So here Mandodari is lamenting. She's saying you didn't want to listen. You still wanted to have Mother Sita. You could not understand how powerful she is. So now because of that you have been killed. Did any comments? Any question? pretty straightforward. So should we stop here?
Yeah, okay. They're pretty clear. Like everything is said in a very systematic way.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
And like though she herself told Ravan a lot of times that, return, you should not do it. It's not like that she's lamenting now. But she also suggested Ravan this a lot of times when
Yeah.
Mother Sita was kidnapped. She had suggested that, please return. You don't know. Please return. It's not a nice thing to have someone's wife. And like there is also this one incident that um, Ravan did not have a good character like how people think today. And he had, I'm forgetting who, he raped that girl, and then she cursed Ravan that if you will touch any women without their concern, then you'll be burned into
Yeah.
ashes.
Kuber's daughter-in-law, right?
Kuber's daughter-in-law. Okay, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So that means that Kuber was his brother only. So imagine
Brother,
he did this to his own
daughter-in-law.
brother-in-law's daughter-in-law. Imagine. So like
Yeah.
he, like how people think that, oh, he was so learned, he's such a nice character, he didn't touch Mother Sita. That's all false.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
he
he
was,
couldn't touch her, otherwise he would have been dead.
yeah, otherwise he would have done.
Yeah, he would have
So
died. It was because of
yes,
the curse. Yes, it's
yes.
true.
So like who's bad is definitely bad. It's like it's not that we can tell him, oh, Ravan was so learned, oh my god, he was
And now
such
we
a, like
say
how
that
people have
Ravan, one who makes one cry, the very
cried.
name suggests
Yeah,
one who makes one cry. And if
then how can
really it's so good, then why don't people name their children Ravan,
Ravan, yeah.
But
So
it's
but like
saying
this is
here,
kind of a false narration being set because we
yeah,
don't read.
yeah,
It's our fault, we don't read actual our Vedic scriptures, and we fall prey to these kind of narrations that have been developed
yeah,
for these characters.
yeah, it's true. It's true. Okay, thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila
Jai,
Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta
Jai,
Vrinda ki jai, Hare
Jai.
Krishna.